Welcome everyone to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. You can follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears. I just finished recording a 25-minute podcast and then realized my mic's not working, so that was great. Sorry for the little bit of echo you hear. I'm not in my usual office. I'm in a hotel, so bear with me here. But did go to the Bears training camp this morning. It was great. I decided I want to have some updates, so I'm going to record a quick podcast here. I'm going to go kind of just position by position and just kind of go over my thoughts, what I saw, who I liked, who stood out, stuff like that. I was at Bears training camp today. I'll be there tomorrow as well, so if anyone wants to say hi, that's why I'm staying in a hotel because I don't want to drive all the way back to Wisconsin. So if I want to stop and say hi, please do. Let's just get right into it. So we'll just go position by position. I'm just going to get my thoughts on everyone. Starting with quarterback position. Obviously, everyone wants to hear about how Nathan Peterman did. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to talk about Nathan Peterman or Simeon. I'm just going to talk about Justin Fields. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he looked very good. It sounds like based on what the media who have been there every day have said that this was his best Bears practice, and I would believe that because I thought he looked really good. I can only talk about what I saw, so I thought he looked really good. I was really excited to watch him when I did my preview podcast. Obviously, I said he was a guy that I wanted to watch for. I did get a pretty good view of him because where I was at training camp, I did get to see him warm up. So I did get a good look at his new release. I tweeted out the video, but I'm going to show it here as well. You can see how much quicker his release is from last year. It's nice to see. It is still early in training camp, so it's easy to do this against no one. But it is nice to see. He could have that long whip wind up delivery like we saw from Trey Lance, but it is a lot tighter, a lot quicker. So that was good to see. I have another angle too, so I can show another video. Same thing. Next rep from him. So that was really good to see. Overall, he just looked really smooth. He made everything look very easy. You can just tell how athletic the guy is, even from just throwing the ball. So really good to see. They also did right after this drill, they did some play action rollout drills. So I have that video here. I tweeted this as well. But you can see how they're emphasizing that the play fake this year, good throw on the run, two going across his body. So when I first saw this, I tweeted this, but the first thing that came to my mind was this looks exactly like Aaron Rodgers and his play fakes. It's taken right from his highlight reel. So that's obviously the Luke gets he worked with Aaron Rodgers for a long time. And that's just it looks exactly like it. So I quickly just went on Game Pass and tried to find a good example of that. So this isn't maybe not the best example, but I found it pretty quickly. You can see the play action from Aaron Rodgers, very similar to what they're teaching Justin Fields. Show that one more time. But you watch the offhand, so he does the hand out before and then just pauses a little bit before turning. Pretty much the exact same thing that we see from Justin Fields. So that's obviously really good to see. Obviously, they want him to study Aaron Rodgers a little bit, and as much as I hate the guy, there are worse people to study probably. So that was really cool to see. It was just funny that was the first thing that popped into my mind. But you can also see the smoothness there. He just makes that look so easy, rolling to his left and then throwing across his body looks pretty good. From what I saw, they practiced mostly red zone stuff today, but he was pretty good throughout the day. He was perfect in 7-on-7s, so I think he had 10 completions in his 7-on-7 drill, including 3 TDs, one to Equinemius St. Brown, one to Donald Mooney, and one to N'Keal Harry. So that was really good to see after I know he had a couple incompletions, couple interceptions the other day. So that was good to see. Another thing I noticed, and this is a very small thing, but when he wasn't taking reps, he was constantly, watching the other quarterbacks throw. And while he was doing that, right by his side was always Andrew Janocko, the quarterback's coach. They were always constantly talking in between reps, constantly coaching and teaching. Hopefully he doesn't take too much from what he saw from Nathan Peterman, but still, it was just kind of cool to see that they were constantly talking. And the guys that the coaches are constantly talking to, those are the guys that coaches have a lot of faith in and think are going to be, really good guys. Obviously, the quarterback position they're going to be talking to, but there are other guys that were constantly talking to coaches that I noticed as well. So that was good to see. I just made this note. The ball just looks different coming out of his hands than it does from the other two guys. Just a little extra zip, a little tighter spiral. I think he's going to be, I know it's a training camp practice, but from everything I saw last year, and with the quickness of his release and his footwork appearing to be better, the sky's the limit for Justin Fields. Really excited to see how he grows. Again, it's very easy to have good footwork and have a quick release when you don't have 350-pound guys rushing you and getting in your face. But still, good start. Good to see. All right, moving on to the running backs. It's hard to judge running backs when there's no tackling and no pads on. It's hard to judge if a running back broke a tackle when they are taught to stop before tackling a guy. So it is a little bit hard to judge them in training camp. But I did get a very good look at the running backs in receiving drills against linebackers. And I think that's a little bit a better barometer of how a guy looks than in the running game. Guy who stood out was Tristan Ebner. I've talked about him a lot. He looked really good as a receiver. I have some videos here. This one's against Caleb Johnson. All right, let's see that again. So you can see he does a little out route, but just look how smooth he is and the way he catches the ball and doesn't slow down at all. He catches the ball in stride and just doesn't lose speed or anything like that. Nice little Texas route, little in route from him. So that was good to see. He had another one. This is pretty much the same thing, but just from another angle. So this is against undrafted rookie Jack Sanborn, who actually I think had a pretty good, decent day. Not his best rep here, but you can see how he's able to get open. This one is not as smooth as the last one, I think. I like to see him get in and out of his cuts a little bit quicker than that, but still a win there from Ebner. Another guy who looked really good in these drills, and I didn't get video of this, but it's Darrington Evans. Ebner and Evans are kind of fighting for that third running back spot. I thought he looked really good. He made a really nice play in that drill. It was it was not that same route. It was a go route out of the backfield from Evans. And Nathan Peterman was the guy throwing the ball to all these guys in this drill. But Evans made a nice kind of back shoulder catch to nice body control to come down with it. So I thought that was really impressive. I do think Dave Montgomery looked good in this drill as well. He beat one of the linebackers pretty badly on one play. I can't remember who it was. Nathan Peterman just kind of overthrew him. But then he got open on another play too. So it was good to see Montgomery kind of working and getting a little bit better in the passing game. That's something that I think he can be utilized in a better way, and I think he will in this offense. And then I thought Khalil Herbert looked pretty good as well. So I have a rep here, Khalil Herbert versus Nicholas Morrow. So it's just a little out route. You can see Morrow tries to get a little physical with Herbert, but Herbert makes a nice cut to get open on the out route here. So that was good to see from Herbert. That's an area where he really needed to improve was as a route runner. So it's good to see him getting open against a linebacker who's played a lot in this league, and not just some undrafted rookie guy. So that was good to see from Herbert. So I thought all four of those guys actually played pretty well. Also, grouping Kari Blasingame with the running backs. He's obviously their starting fullback, but he was involved heavily in the play action passing game. And I think you are gonna hear Kari Blasingame's name a lot, not just as a blocker. I think they are gonna try to get him the ball from time to time, maybe a couple times a game, maybe even less than that. But keep an eye out for that. One other thing to mention there, just a note I have, probably don't even need to mention this because he won't be on the roster anytime soon, but Jake Tongs, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he was working with the running backs, so he's listed as a tight end on the Bears roster and in the program, but he was working with the running backs, so they're obviously converting him to a fullback, H-back role, so he didn't look very good at all, but just something to kind of note that he was working with the running backs and not the tight ends. Moving on to the wide receivers. One guy who had a really good game, a really good day, was Equanimeous St. Brown. When I did my training camp preview, I said he was a guy that I was going to look out for. because I do think he's the best receiver out of the Nikhil Harry, Civil Webster, Dante Pettis kind of group, that second tier group after the three, after Mooney and Pringle and Valus Jones. And he had a great day today. He caught at least 2 touchdowns from what I saw. If there's a position group that I saw the least of, though, was probably wide receivers, because I was on the far side of the field, so I saw a lot of the quarterbacks early on, and the running backs, the linebackers, and the defensive backs. But I did see the wide receivers mostly in the team drills, not so much in the position drills. But Equanimus St. Brown really stood out. He had one play where he caught a ball from Justin Fields in the back of the end zone for a touchdown in team drills, in 11-on-11s. And he just made a really great body control to go up and get it, come down with it, and keep both feet in bounds. He's 6'5", and that showed up today. So having that big body receiver is going to be really nice. He did work the ones from time to time as well. He was kind of rotating in with the ones with Valus Jones and Byron Pringle. So that was good to see too. So I think he's pretty much a lock for the roster at this point. Given his special teams ability and given the fact that he knows the offense, I'd be shocked if he doesn't make this team. Another thing to note is, when I was walking out, I was actually walking next to Equanimus St. Brown, and he was walking a little bit with a limp. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I don't know if he might have tweaked something at the end there, but maybe he's fine, but just something I noticed. One thing I want to mention is a guy who didn't stand out was Valus Jones. It's just one day. I know the last couple before that, the 2 practices before this, he sounded like he stood out. So I'm not gonna read too much into that. I just didn't see much from him today. But again, that's just one day. But I just put a note in my note file that I just didn't really see him at all. Darnell Mooney did have a drop that turned into a Kyler Gordon pick. So just the only thing, he also caught a couple touchdowns. I don't want to nitpick here, but drops have become a little bit of a problem with Darnell Mooney, but nothing I'm too concerned about. I just jotted it down. I don't care. I'm not as concerned with drops as most people are. As long as you're making plays, I don't care about drops too much. But if you're dropping the ball and not making plays, that's when I get concerned. But if you're a big play receiver like Darnell Mooney is, you're gonna have to deal with some drops from time to time. Not too concerned there. Tight ends. I didn't see a whole lot of the tight ends. That's probably a position I actually saw the least of, was the tight ends. I did see from the opposite side of the field that Cole Kmet made a couple nice catches in the position drills. I didn't see too much of him in the team drills, but again, I was a little bit far away, at least for that first session of team drills. So take that with a grain of salt. Ryan Griffin was given a veteran day off, which I thought was interesting for a guy who I thought was kind of maybe not on the roster bubble, but could get beaten out for a spot. But considering he was given a veteran day off, and maybe it seems like he might be more locked into the roster than we think. Other tight ends I didn't really see much of. If you follow me, I'm a big fan of James O'Shaughnessy. Didn't really see much of him today. I also didn't see a lot of 2 tight end sets, which was interesting because from studying the Packers and Luke Getsy and the offenses that he came from, they use a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I'm not sure if that's something that maybe they're doing in the closed practices and not so much the practices that are open to the public and open to the media. So we'll see about that. But a little bit interesting that I didn't see a lot of that. All right, moving on to the offensive line. Obviously, that's something that everyone wants to know about. The way they lined up with starters, and there are some caveats here, but the left tackle was Braxton Jones, so he got all the first team reps there. Riley Reif is still in a ramp-up period, so he was participating in the position drills, but wasn't really participating in the team drills. So that's why he wasn't kind of rotating in. So my guess is Riley Reif is going to be the starter there, but right now Braxton Jones is getting all the reps. At left guard, Cody Whitehair got a veteran day off. No injury there, just got the day off. He was still there and kind of working with guys, but he wasn't participating in any of the drills or the team portion. So taking over his starting spot was Zach Thomas, the rookie out of San Diego State. At center, Lucas Patrick is hurt. I'm sure everyone's seen he needs wrist surgery, so he's out for a few weeks. Hopefully he gets back for the start of week 1. We'll see about that. But Doug Kramer was getting the starting reps with him out. I don't think From what I saw, I did not see Sam Mustipher at center. He's playing only at right guard, which is interesting because I do think he's, could be a decent backup center. And I actually like him at center more than I like him at guard. But we'll see. So he did rotate. Sam Mustipher did rotate into the guards, but getting the start there was Jatire Carter, the rookie out of Southern. When he was drafted, I said he was my favorite late interior offensive lineman that they drafted, so not including Braxton Jones. So it's really awesome to see him getting those starting reps there. I think he looked really good throughout the day, so I think he's a guy that we need to kind of keep an eye out for. And then Larry Borum was going to start at right tackle. Tevin Jenkins was not present today. Eberflus said he had a minor injury, but didn't really go into much detail, so a little bit of secrecy there. I'm not ready to hit the panic button just yet, but my finger's on the button. We'll see what happens there. I do think Borum is going to be a starter week 1, just given where Tevin Jenkins is at. If he misses any more time, it's going to be difficult for him to ramp up for week 1. So I'm sure we'll get an update eventually on him, but right now Larry Borum's the starter right tackle. So I did get a pretty good view of the offensive line today. I saw all of the offensive line, D-line drill. I had a very good view of that. So guys who impressed me the most, number 1 was Michael Schofield, so the guy we just signed, right guard, who played with the Chargers last year. I thought he looked extremely good. I do have some videos here. So this is a Michael Schofield rep against Angelo Blackson. So you can see here, I did a Twitter thread kind of breakdown of Schofield. I highly recommend checking it out because I think it was actually pretty good. But everything I saw in that breakdown that I did kind of shows up on here. A good wide base, good use of his hands, good hand fighter. Blackson tries to get a little spin move on him and he just completely shuts it down. He didn't lose a rep the entire time in these one-on-one drills. It's really impressive. Now, he is a much better pass blocker than he is a run blocker, so this drill fits him very well. I'd say run blocking is something he needs to improve upon, but he's 31 years old, so he's probably not. He probably just is what he is at this point. But in these pass blocking drills, he really stood out. I think he's our best pass blocking offensive lineman, to be honest. I don't think it's particularly close. So he really impressed me. Other guy impressed me, as I mentioned, Jatire Carter, the rookie. This is a rep against Justin Jones. And I don't think Carter lost a rep either in these drills, from what I remember. But you can see kind of the same thing, good wide base, good use of his length, and he's able to push Justin Jones out of the play. So it's really exciting to see one of these rookies stepping up, and I do think that is Carter. Just really nice to see. I only have 1 rep from Carter, but on video, but he did win most of his. And the other guy that looked pretty good was Braxton Jones. I don't have any video of him, but you can see why the Bears like him. Really athletic, good lateral agility, really long arms. He might not have been as clean as those last 2 guys I just mentioned, but he did pretty well in those drills and was running with the ones and the team drills and looked pretty good there too. Couple other notes. No one really looked bad to me in any of these offensive line, defensive line drills. Just a couple notes. Zach Carter just needs to get a little bit stronger, but he works hard and he fights in these battles. He got beat pretty badly by who was it? He got beat twice. Once by Micah Treadway and once by Justin Jones, I believe. But then he came back right back, and his next rep he held his own. I actually have it here. Zach Thomas first. This is another rep against Justin Jones. He lost the previous one, but it's not a perfect rep by any means. But he did kind of hold his own. But you can see a little rough around the edges, but showed good athleticism. Just needs to get a little bit stronger. So he's starting with the left guard with Cody Whitehair out. I think he's clearly a step behind Carter in his progression. But there is some talent there and some potential there, so something to keep an eye on. I just don't think he's ready to play right away. And the other thing I saw was Pick Simmons, Latavius Simmons. He got beat pretty badly in these drills. I don't have a video, but he also did have a pretty disrespectful pancake of Jack Sanborn in the team drill. And I wish I would have got it on video because it was pretty cool. But he's clearly a guy who's a much better run blocker than pass blocker. So those individual drills with the defensive linemen, he struggled. But when you get him in the run game, he can really move some people. So that was interesting to see. I don't think he makes the roster, but just something I noted. Right. Okay, moving on. So kind of on the other side of that coin is the defensive linemen. Obviously, they were going up against the offensive linemen. Something to note before we get into the individual drills, the starters in the team drills were Justin Jones at 3 technique, Angelo Blackson at defensive tackle, which I don't think anyone should be surprised about. Those are clearly our top 2 defensive linemen. Kairos Tonga did play with the second team. And is clearly kind of stuck below Angelo Blackson. But I do kind of like Angelo Blackson to rotate between 3 technique and nose tackle. So I'm sure Tonga will get plenty of playing time this year, mostly on early downs. In the pass rush drills, he really didn't make an impact at all. That's not his game. He's a run stuffer only, pretty much. But he can be a good one, at least a decent run stuffer. So I didn't see much of him making flashes, but something just to note there. Another thing I really liked was Mario Edwards was lined up at D end in base defense, but moved inside to 3 technique when they moved to nickel. That's a role I really like for him a lot. We've always had these guys who are kind of like tweeners, and I always say I want to see them play at D end and shift inside on passing downs, but coaches don't seem to do it. This coaching staff is clearly doing that with Mario Edwards, so that's good to see. He's a sub 290 guy, so if you put him on the interior every snap, he's going to struggle. But this way, he can kind of bounce back and forth between D end and 3 technique, and I think that's the best use of his skill set. Back to the one-on-one drills, guy who really stood out on the defensive line was Travis Gibson. I think he won every snap in the one-on-one drills that he took. He absolutely dominated. And given that he's coming into year 3, that's what you would expect. He had something like 7 sacks, 7.5 sacks last year. Expected double-digit sack year from him. The dude's going to be a stud. He absolutely dominated. Really excited to see his growth. And really excited to what he can bring to the Bears. I think him, and if Robert Quinn doesn't get traded, which it maybe sounds like he might not, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch there. So yeah, he's the guy who probably stood out the most. Definitely the guy who stood out the most on the D-line. Another guy who stood out on the interior D-line was Micah Duke Treadway. He had a really nice win one-on-one against Zachary Thomas, as I mentioned. Didn't really do much after that, but his one win was pretty dominant. Just swatted Thomas's hands out of the way and got around him. So I made a note of that. I thought Angelo Blackson looked pretty good too. He got stoned by Michael Schofield there, but besides that, he was pretty disruptive. So I like him a lot as a solid starter. And that's with him and Blackson and Justin Jones. I think neither of those guys are really star players, but you have 2 solid starters there who aren't going to hurt you. So that's a little bit better than what maybe some people think. So they held their own there. Another guy I want to talk about on the D-line was Dominic Robinson, so the rookie pass rusher. He's super athletic. It's easy to see. Super long, super athletic. But he didn't win a single rep in these one-on-ones. I knew of a video here. This is kind of how every single rep went with him. I'll let it reload here. But he has the speed, he has the quickness, he has the length, but he just doesn't have any counters. So if that speed rush doesn't work, the offensive lineman can just run him around the arc, and there's nothing you can do there. I really do like Dominic Robinson. I just think this is going to be a redshirt year for him. He was running with the 2s, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a mysterious injury that puts him on IR to start the year, or even for the entire year, because he's just not ready to play right away. But he does have pretty good potential, and like what I saw. Besides that, if he can just develop a few pass rush counters, learn from Robert Quinn, learn from Travis Gibson, learn from Al-Qadim Muhammad, he could be a really good player. He's just really far away from a really good player right now. So just wanted to make note of that. Another thing that happened was Charles Snowden flashed a good amount. Not a ton, but a few plays here and there. But interesting was during kind of when the defensive line was warming up, he actually broke the blocking sled. And the defensive linemen went crazy. Were cheering. It was actually pretty fun, and you got to be pretty strong to break one of those sleds. So that was pretty cool. But he was also a guy who flashed from time to time too. All right. Oh, I do have one video here. This is Matt Adams against Khalil Herbert in that passing game drill. I don't know why my videos are doing that, but he actually sticks with him pretty well. And I'm not sure if you can get if he got a hand on it. It's hard to tell from this angle, but it's clearly an incomplete pass. So good rep there. Him, Matt Adams, and Nicholas Morrow were your two starters um, at the linebacker position. So that was, not super surprising with Roquan Smith out. So Matt Adams was playing the will linebacker position with Roquan Smith out, and Nicholas Morrow was playing the Mike. So just something to keep in mind there. Other linebacker who was impressive, I don't have any video of him, but C.J. Avery was really impressive. He's an undrafted rookie out of Louisville, former safety who moved to linebacker a few years ago. So he's a little undersized, so he'd probably be playing like a will linebacker position. But he looked pretty nice. He was a guy who was constantly being praised by coaches. I kept on hearing nice rep CJ over and over again. The coaches were talking to him a lot, so he's clearly a guy that they like. I might want to go back and maybe look at some of his tape from Louisville, see if what's there. I didn't really do any study on him, but he's a guy who definitely flashed from time to time. If there's one guy who I wasn't really expecting who stepped up, it was definitely CJ Avery. I liked him. In team drills, he had a really nice tackle for loss. Got in the backfield really quickly, read his keys. Obviously, they're not tackling, so he didn't get a tackle, but he would have gotten a tackle or at least attempted to tackle had it been a tackling drill. So that was really impressive to see. Really liked him. As I mentioned, Morrow and Adams, the starters. Interestingly, during the positional drills, they were doing a lot of tackling drills. So they obviously, again, were not tackling each other, but the coaching staff was really emphasizing wrapping up tackles. So they were kind of simulating that in their drills. So that was really good to see. Hopefully we don't have any missed tackles. Besides getting pancaked on that one play by Pick Simmons, I thought Jack Sanborn looked pretty good. You can tell he moves a lot better north and south than he does east and west. He's not a great lateral mover. It showed up in that coverage play against Treston Ebner. But I thought he overall looked pretty good, especially in the run game. He has an inside shot at that Sam linebacker position, the starting Sam linebacker position. So he's going to come down out the field on passing downs anyway. So if he could just take on blocks, blitz, and just play the run pretty well, I think he has a good chance to kind of take over that role. All right. Almost half hour. I'm going to kind of wrap this up quickly. I don't want to talk forever, but moving on to defensive backs, finish up here. The two guys who stood out, or the two guys I was hoping would stand out, and that was Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. Both had picks today. Kyler Gordon's came off of that drop from Darnell Mooney, but Jaquan Brisker's pick came on just an out route to Cole Kmet. Really good play from him. So it was Justin in team drills 11-on-11. Justin Fields to Cole Kmet on a little out route. Jaquan Brisker did just a really good job of jumping that. Really, really nice play by him. Really impressive. I think both guys, are slated to start, and both guys are excited. But I think Jaquan Brisker is the guy who might be the better of the two right now. I think that might be a steal. So obviously people are going to be keeping an eye on our second round pick, but keep an eye out for Jaquan Brisker. He might be something special there. Made a couple other nice plays as well too. It wasn't just one play. Kyler Gordon continued to work in the slot and the outside, which I think is a great role for him. I saw on Twitter some people weren't a fan of that, but I actually really like it. He's really physical, good tackler. I think and that physicality and tackling is something I want out of my slot cornerback, and I'm not sure if they have someone else who can do that. So I like that they were kind of working him in both ways. Maybe it slows down his development a little bit, but it might be really good in the long run. So he was playing on the outside with the first team in base, and then moving into the inside from time to time when they went into nickel. When he wasn't in the nickel, as the nickel corner, Tavon Young was lined up as a starter with the nickel backs, with the defensive back, so he's lined up as a nickel back. Unfortunately, Thomas Graham was out with an injury. I really wanted to see him because he thought he flashed last year in a very small sample size, so big caveat there. But I really wanted to see him. Unfortunately, he was out with an injury today. Hopefully, it's not too serious because a young guy like that, if he misses any more time, it's going to be difficult for him to break into that starting lineup, and maybe even potentially make the team. But I do think he'll end up making the team. But it was just disappointing to not see him out there. The starting safeties were Brisker and Eddie Jackson. No surprise there. But the backups, the second team was DeAndre Houston Carson and Elijah Hicks. So Elijah Hicks getting some second team reps. That's good to see from him. Dane Cruikshank is on the physically unable form list, so I'm not sure if him coming back will shift Elijah Hicks down. But just something to note there. I think I covered everything. Like I said, this is my second time recording this. So a little, I can't remember if I talked about things or not. Can't remember if I talked about it the first time I talked about it here. But I will be here, be at training camp again tomorrow. Stop by and say hi if you want. Love to talk to people. I'll do another another kind of recap like this. I'm also going to be on the Irish Bear Show podcast tomorrow as well. So keep an eye out for them. Follow them on Twitter if you don't already. I'm sure you do. They do a great job. So look out for that. And I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, bear down.